See if we can. Oh, there we go. Hi, Kimberly. How are you doing? So you've got a very nice background there. I like the white background. So, well, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you guys?
We're
Glad
doing
to
very, very
join
good.
you.
Welcome to PHDwin Week.
Thanks. It's lovely up here in the Northeast this time of year, so it's fun to be doing a virtual conference and joining the party, I guess, this year for my first PhD Win Week.
Yeah, your first PHDwin Week. Now you're part of it. Now you're officially Kristen, right? To be part of PHDwin Week. So, Kimberly, let's go ahead and start there. If you wouldn't mind, tell everyone on the stream a little bit about your background and where you're from. And you say you're in the Northeast right now. If you wouldn't mind, give us a little introduction to you and your consulting firm.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Thanks, guys. So I'm a petroleum engineer, and I'm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the heart of the Marcellus and Utica shales. I'm actually third generation oil and gas. I come from a family that had a drilling business, and I grew up with my dad and my grandma on the rigs. But I am the first one to go to college in my family, and I have a master's in science from West Virginia University. So born in the conventional days here and worked through all of those and came out of university just in time for the unconventional shale revolution. So it's been great so far. I decided to found my firm in 2017 to really focus on the Appalachian Basin specifically, as it was coming into its own, and the Marcellus was really taking off, but I still have that heart for those small conventional operators. So myself and four other full-time engineers serve a wide base of clientele in the basin, from operators with 5 conventional wells to billion-dollar valuated Marcellus and Utica operators. So we're a team of production engineers, reservoir engineers. We do reserves, and I recently became a certified mineral appraiser as well. So.
Oh, wow. That's a lot going on. Well, again, we
Yeah.
appreciate, I know you're real busy and you've had a lot of moving and changing going on. So we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us on PHDwin Week. I just want to remind the viewers that are watching right now, if you have any questions for Kimberly or you want to reach out to her, there is a dedicated page for her on our PHDwin website. She was a sponsor this year, so she has a page that goes through all of the different services that she offers. Plus, there's a form you can reach out to her, and we'll make sure anyone fills out that form, we pass that information along so that she can get a hold of you. And so, Kimberly, my understanding is that but prior to PHDwin, you kind of had experience with some other software. And also, I know that you have a service that you offer. Let's talk about the service in a minute. Would you mind talking first about what your experience was prior to PHDwin and what it was like coming into PHDwin?
Sure. So as I mentioned, grew up in the industry. I discovered as a teenager that you could put an exponential fit on production in Excel. I thought that was so cool. And then in college, this magical software called ARIES was shown to me by a mentor, right? So I have to admit, I was an ARIES snob for about 15 years. I didn't like it. I was very vocal to them about what I'll call the inconveniences of their software and interacting with it. But it has been the foundation of my work thus far, and I became known as the ARIES expert in the Northeast and did a lot of work there. I had seen glimpses of PHDwin version 2. It just didn't seem to click with me, and it seemed like maybe if I did a switch or ran both, I would have similar problems with the product. Well, about a year ago this time, I had a new client reach out, and we talked with them, and they were like, we love your services. We want to work with you. What you guys bring to the table is a little different than an auditing firm or a reservoir engineering house. So let's work together. But we use PHDwin. And I was like, okay, let's see what we can do here. Well, I'll reach out. So I talked with Jonathan, and he was like, well, we have version 3. Do you know about it? And I was like, oh, I don't. You have a new solution? This is awesome. So we did a demo. I watched some videos. I was super impressed by the support. And put simply, it just made sense to me. It didn't seem like the transition was going to be difficult. So that's kind of where I'm coming from for this conversation.
I think that's a background that many can relate to. They started off in some other product and then they come into PHDwin. We talk to people all the time that we're converting them from either another software solution or something like Excel, like you talked about earlier. A lot of people still do a lot of their modeling in Excel, and then we help bring them in and try to show them how we do things, our methodology with PHDwin. I always tell people that PHDwin is a methodology. It's our defined standard. And we've tried to work with the major consulting firms, banks, and major players in the industry to make that a good, consistent standard for someone like yourself to come in, pick up those tools, and then be able to do the work you need to do. But not everything's roses. Let's kind of be honest about this. Let's talk about this. I'm big on transparency, Nick. You know that. He knows I'm a little bit too much about it. So let me ask you, Kimberly, what were the largest challenges you had that you faced moving from what your previous experience was into PHDwin?
Sure, yeah, and I will say it's been great talking with you guys to help convert my what I call ARIES brain into PHDwin language. It hasn't been a huge hurdle, but you guys have been great to help me learn the tricks and tips that I could do really fast in ARIES. You guys have helped me really work to get up to speed quickly with PHDwin. So that's been fun and actually unexpected compared to previous experiences. But the biggest transition is definitely what I call my ARIES brain. I've been doing it for 15 years a certain way, and basically what I call misbehaving with the software. My first instinct is always to go into the background of the database and start messing with tables in the database itself instead of working on the front end and doing the prescribed upload processes, etc. And you can't do that in PHDwin, but that's a good thing, right? Because I spend a lot of time dealing with troubleshooting my incorrect behavior in the back end of the ARIES databases. So just some of those instincts have definitely been something I've had to work on, but for a good reason, right? And then one of the other things is just terminology, right? And in conversations I'm having with clients, with you guys, with my staff is, scenarios and qualifiers who still don't come natural to me because they are very similar in ARIES, but they're just slightly different, and what they control is also slightly different. So the scenarios and qualifiers video you guys have on your support site, I've watched many times. And also things like cases, properties, wells, those terms get thrown around and used a little bit differently on the ARIES side. But I haven't found a major issue with switching. I thought the biggest problem I would be transitioning databases over, and that's actually been very simple because of the controlled upload process. So that was actually a big concern for me starting out, ended up not being a concern. So those were a couple of items there.
Well, I will say, as far as the brain, like that you already kind of had that muscle memory, you already had that workflow in place. As you talked about earlier, we're in the middle of a transition ourselves. We have the version 2 product that we're still supporting, though there's still clients that want to use that product. Where we just updated it not that long ago to keep that one supported. But most of our effort and our, the future of the company, as Nick knows here, he's gotten really good with it, is the version 3. And, one thing that we've talked to clients that are in our own ecosystem that are looking from transitioning from version 2 to version 3, you have a muscle memory built in. You have a workflow built in that you kind of gotten used to. And even me, someone that's trained with the old product dozens of times, my hand, he has to get on me sometimes. My hand just immediately goes to the wrong place or whatever. Now, luckily, Nick here has gotten trained on the new product. I think at this point, you might know it almost as good or better than me, right? Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there pretty good. But, that's where a nice fresh start, that's where having new eyes on it, I think can really matter. But I got to give you credit, Kimberly. Until you came along and you started working with us and talking with us, as far as the product that you had familiarity with, I didn't know a lot of the challenges. We had to deal with the data sets. We've been converting those data sets for over a decade now. And I've been able to figure out enough to translate terms and hopefully help people that are transitioning in. But whenever you showed us kind of like how difficult it was to keep the data set consistent, how there was third-party products that would check the quality of the data set as you were messing around in the back end before you bring it back in, that was really mind-blowing for me, because as you said, we really like to do things through our interface. We have a philosophy called data discipline, where we want to make sure that the data goes in is good. And so whenever you go through our database, it's constantly checking that data. it makes sure you don't put like a Q as the initial rate or something along those lines. So that way, whenever you actually get to the economics, you get to the whatever other part of the program you want to be in, you're not have to deal with data conflicts or mismatched data. So you taught us a lot about what the other side is, what that experience is. And I think that that was a real benefit to us. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on for PHDwin, because I think that your story is, first of all, one that a lot of people can relate to. And then, we just kind of really appreciate how much that you've taught us, right, Nick? I mean, yeah, I know you got a lot out of talking with Kimberly too.
You guys know I can talk, and I'm going to say something.
You will, and you're good about saying, hey, what's going on here? You reach out and you let us know, and hopefully we've been providing good support to you on the support team and everything like that. That's a big part of it, right? So let me ask you this. So once you got past those challenges, though, there had to be some benefits about PHDwin that you really liked, or you wouldn't have bought in. You wouldn't have gone this direction, right, for your company. Right. So what are some of your favorite parts about PHDwin, as you've come in as this new user?
It seems a little superficial, but the user interface is modern, and in my head, the way you interact with it is natural compared to other modern softwares. So it made that transition very easy for me, because even though I have my ARIES brain as a user of all kinds of other software, it just made sense to go into work with the module as it is presented to you. So that immediately it was welcoming to me. But I would have to say my number one favorite thing is, and this blew your guys' mind, the live economic calculations in the ribbon at the bottom is amazing to an ARIES user. So I can automatically see when I'm making a change and an assumption, it updates my economic calculations at the bottom. In ARIES, you're in 3 different disjointed modules. So work that I might be doing in graphics or where I'm doing forecasting, I have to manually push into economics, and then I have to push a button for it to run and calculate, and then it pops up a window with results. And just that ease of being able to sensitize and see those results, even the economic bar that occurs on the graph, that is my favorite thing by far, and it makes my workflow so much faster, and I would say accurate as well, because I'm seeing live results to my changes. I have a whole list if you want me to keep going.
Hey, we're here. We got some time. If you want to share with some people what you like, go for it. This is great.
Yeah. So one of the items I also love is the standard reporting. The canned reports out of PHDwin have been able to answer most of the requests that my clients have, even the ones I've transitioned. And we've been talking about maybe some added ones that some prior ARIES people are used to seeing. But the V3 Connect is huge because, like I said, I'm used to working in the back end of the software and just ripping tables out. But those tables would always come through in inconsistent formatting and inconsistent columns. So having the V3 Connect easy one push out of the software is awesome, because we set a lot of Spotfire dashboards on top of our databases for validation, for pretty reports for management, for ripping down into our formal reserve reporting. I'm a very visual person, so and I come from a data analytics, Spotfire type background, so I like to pull that into my reserve reports, and having that standard output every time, regardless of how I set the database up, has been just a huge time saver on our end.
Well, I'll jump in on that one. So, that was kind of my baby, the V3 Connect. I put that together, and that's what I really meant it for, to be this standard output. Whenever I teach the training class, I tell a lot of people, you're talking about the different modules in that other software, I tell them, leave the spreadsheet open on one screen or part of your screen, leave PHDwin open the other screen, and that way you can just refresh and go back and forth and see those results immediately. Yep. Also, you mentioned Spotfire. I just want to point out, so if you wouldn't pardon me on this a little bit, Kimberly, this is our first session. So we're kind of setting the tone for the week. So later on this week, on Friday, in fact, we have another partner coming in the morning that's going to show some a really cool tech that they built on top of PHDwin using Spotfire. But as part of PHDwin Week this year, we have a feature. So anyone that's interested in integrating Spotfire with PHDwin, on our client portal, we have a package, we have a feature that you can download and use that will allow you to integrate PHDwin version 3 with Spotfire. So if you want to be like Kimberly, you want to get those insights, you want to pull out and visualize your data, we definitely have support for that now. And as I said, later on in the week on Friday, we'll have a client come in, Blue River Analytics, and they're going to actually show, this is a key partner that's going to show you exactly, or everyone, how they've integrated with that standard tool set that you're talking about that we set up. So I really appreciate that you've been able to extend that. One thing about it too, you're talking about getting into the database. With the SQL Server, we do have this open database, which allows us to integrate with SQL, allows us to integrate with Spotfire. But, people are so used to editing on that side that they don't go to the interface first. So I'm glad that you found that benefit to the interface, that instant economics, that line on the graph. I mean, Nick, that's from version 2, right? I mean, you've demoed version 2, that line, right? That's been around for a while, right? We've been doing that one a long time, right? So
that's right.
What do you think about that, Nick? Don't you think that's important?
Yeah, I think it's really important. A lot of the feedback I get is about just the more options to change the way that your ECL is calculated in the program now, and how we have introduced commerciality and different ways of changing the economic calculation to, max cum cash flow. It seems to be most people's preference these days, but you still have the option to go back to the old ways if you don't want to change it and you want to have it still calculate the same way as version 2. You still have the hurdles option as well. And there are just so many options that we've made the transition easier and easier from version 2 or from other softwares.
I think if you're just getting into version 3, Nick has a wonderful session coming up later this week where he's going to walk everyone through the interface and the features. So if you're looking at like A&D packages as the main example in version 3 and you're not have any experience with it, you're still using version 2, or like Kimberly, you're coming from another piece of software, that session is going to walk you through what that functionality looks like. And then later today, I have a session about Microsoft SQL Server where I'm going to dig into some of what the data set looks like, the different tools that you can work around using SQL Server. And then I'm going to talk more about this Spotfire integration, how you can use this as a standard feature. So if any of this is interesting for you, be sure to catch Nick's session. Be sure to catch my session. Kimberly, I'm doing another session later this week that was completely inspired by you. And the whole, your questions about the other product scenarios and qualifiers versus scenarios and qualifiers. Me and you went back and forth a lot about what's qualified data, what's scenario qualified data, and that wasn't intuitive to you, where that data was being qualified in our system. So I'm going to do an hour-long session where I'm going to go through and I'm going to break down, what kind of data is qualified to the qualifier level, the scenario level, and the database level. And that was directly inspired by the conversations we had with you. So thank you very much for being a good partner. Feedback. You're driven a lot of what we're doing this week. And that's why I want to make sure you were on the first session, because a lot of PHDwin week has been driven by the experience working with your company and getting you up to speed as a PHDwin power user. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it. So, hopefully, your experience is one that'll speak to our broader audience. Let me just ask real quick. Do you have any questions for Kimberly, Nick?
Kimberly, I want to thank you very much. When I was on support, Kimberly would give me all these questions that I would try to jump on the Kimberly ones because I would learn more in those 30-minute sessions than in anything else. She would send in like 8 or 9 questions in a very well formatted email, and I would usually just call. So I would look at it. I would note down my answers for each one, and then I would call and try to be prepared for it. And it was like a really good training session to receive from clients for something that I didn't really expect coming into this job. So I appreciate that very much.
I know how to do this in the other software, but I haven't helped me.
And hopefully, you've had a good experience. I mean, we have guys like Nick on support that are answering those questions, and hopefully, you get your questions answered. But some of it just is like, I know what I'm doing. Just get out of my way. Show me how to change the gears back and forth. So, I want you to demo in a second. I know you have a service and a product, and I want you to be able to show off your service. Just a second, though. Before we get there, though, Kimberly, is there any final words, any advice that you have for anyone that's switching over from the different world and coming into PHDwin for the first time?
Like I said, I was very hesitant, but I was hesitant because I've been using it for 15 years and my workflows are so set, and but I was just super frustrated all the time. So that the learning curve was very fast, and it has removed a lot of that frustration for me. So even though it took me a little bit to get back to the same speed of completing projects in my workflow, I'm like way less frustrated, which helps to produce a better product at the end, right? And just a lot of I've been really encouraged by the user community and support that is non-existent with ARIES. And I value that as a consultant by myself up here in the Northeast. It's great to have connections and see ideas and, events like this week where we can all grow together as engineers. So that's kind of my advice, is just to get involved. I kind of drug my feet for a couple years, and I'm glad I'm here now.
We're happy to have you. Thank you so much for being involved. So, as I said, I want to talk a little bit now about the new service that you're offering. So take a little bit. What is this service, and what can you offer the viewers of the stream today?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, our core business is providing engineering consulting. Earlier this year, there was another consultant in the area that actually retired, and I acquired his subscription product. It's called the Appalachian Basin Horizontal Well Database, and it includes data from 3 different states up here, and it's competitive with IHS, Drilling Info, and Veris, all of those big data service providers. But it's a little bit different because we actually add a bunch of engineering assumptions into our product. We correct data. I think it's cleaner. And I've been a user of this product and helped in developing it since 2015. So it was a natural acquisition for my company. And it's really been helpful to users up here in the Northeast that are doing A&D, that want to compare their assets. And it's been super additive to our team. So we set Spotfire on top of it, do a lot of modeling, and provide it as a subscription service. So I actually here share my screen for you guys to show you a little bit more about it.
Let's see.
Yeah, so let's present here. All right, there we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So like I was saying, it's a combination of data from the 3 states. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of the other data services out there can get pretty behind in our states up here. One, it's not as huge of a focus as the Texas area, but as particularly in Pennsylvania, you have to type in all of the data that comes in PDF form for completion records. So we have an army of interns who maintains that. And then in Ohio, they don't notify you when well data has been submitted. So we literally have to go through the API list to look for updates. And as a part of the service, we also are providing monthly updates in a PHDwin version 3 compatible format. We can either do it as a V3 Connect sheet that you can upload, or as a database, actually. And what our database includes from a data standpoint is well header information, your basic who owns it, who drilled it, dates that things happen, lateral links. Completions data is huge up here. Again, a lot of the big data services just don't even have Pennsylvania. So we have all of the loading. We pull in frac focus, compare that to the state data, and then we have the monthly production. Ohio reports quarterly, so we've got monthly West Virginia, monthly Pennsylvania, quarterly Ohio, and then because of that quarterly, we actually provide DCA and EUR forecasts for all of the wells in the database. And we also have a free monthly newsletter that we call the Basin Digest. So that's free for anyone that wants to sign up. It includes a lot of permitting information. It includes a highlight every month. And let's see, I'm gonna jump over here to show you that. So this is our homepage for the database. It's at basindb.com. And you can look for some well data here. And then you can jump over here to sign up for our Basin Digest. Again, that's free and it comes out once a month. And the Basin Digest basically provides a summary of the Northeast. We want it to be a hub of data to those interested in this area once a month. List all of our permits. We have some mapping that can come along with the subscription as well. And then focus on different status, different operators. And then, for example, this one I pulled up was a focus on the Marcellus. So we pull in some of our dashboards from Spotfire to talk about, trends in the area. And again, this is updated monthly. So I come from a data background, so we try to share a little bit of data with a lot of our clients are non-technical. So this has been really beneficial. And again, in my opinion, I think our particularly completions data is the premier product out there these days. So back here for a second. Oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was just commenting. That's amazing. No, keep going, please. Show us.
I was just going to say, if you guys are interested in the database, it's at basindb.com. Our main services is under ARIESpetroleum.com. Again, I'm in Pittsburgh, actually located in South Point, where the majority of the oil and gas companies are. And we do a wide range of services, mostly including reserves reporting and asset evaluations. But we like to get to the field occasionally as well. So.
Well, one thing I would say is that as we've worked with different data over the years, there's a lot to say for having a service like this that's specialized in an area. The data is going to be set up properly. It's going to be cleaned up properly. So many of the clients we work with, they have a focus. They have a particular area that's where they make most of their money. That's their profit center. That's where their experience is. And I know, Nick, we have clients bring us data in all the time, but then they ask us sometimes too, if they don't have data, like, where do we go for data? And right, me and you were always have to figure out what data provider lines up best. I know you've had those challenges before. Yeah. You're taking those spreadsheets, and it's difficult sometimes, right?
Yeah, sometimes people have some old like Excel files, and we have to do some conversions, but we found usually it ends up being pretty simple to figure out a way to bring it in, because there's so many different import options in the program. But yeah, it's nice to be able to bring in from all those data providers as well. And
especially we get one like you, Kimberly, that we know is focused on a region. We can point the potential clients towards you. And then that's a really good experience. As you said, you offer a V3 specific output that they can pick up and use. And then, then you have a new client. We have a new client. We have someone that's being successful. So the theme for PHDwin Week this year is getting back to work. And we really want to highlight people like yourself that are being successful and are doing real interesting things in the greater oil and gas community. But that a lot of times starts with data. If you don't have good data going in, you're not going to have good results going out. And that fight for good data, that push for good data, is something that a lot of people don't realize is a bigger struggle than it is. I often judge whenever people ask me like what level they're at as far as understanding in this industry about how they can take on data and what they know as far as holes in the data and where those issues are really going to be. And so that's great that you have this service and you offer it, and you bake a lot of your expertise, it seems, into that service for people that want to use your data. But hopefully throughout this PHDwin Week, we have a few other sessions where we're going to be talking about data. We're going to be talking with other providers later on in these morning sessions that bring in data. But we really appreciate, Kimberly, that your focus, and anyone that wants to be in your region of the world, they need to reach out to you, right? You're the professional whenever it comes to Appalachia, right? So we appreciate having you on. So let me ask you real quick. You have been working with PHDwin now for, as you said, not quite a year. But you've shown up. You've been part of our user groups. You've talked with Nick. You've talked with me. You've talked with a good chunk of our company at this point. That you've had a lot of experience, not only with our product, but who we are. And, as we've had people that are getting back to work and coming back to us, a lot of them say, hey, I don't know what's going on with PHDwin right now. I've been kind of checked out, but I know that y'all are consistent. I know I want to work with y'all. It's the people that they're looking for right now. And so if you wouldn't mind, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but what has been your experience working with TRC Consultants as a company and the people? I mean, has that been something that you see as a big benefit compared to other solutions?
Yeah, I really appreciate the user group meeting around NAPE this spring. That was hugely beneficial to me from networking and like putting faces with names and just seeing that it's an active community. Now, other softwares have user groups, but I haven't had that that feeling of connectivity and like willingness to help each other and other experiences. So that's been huge. And then I would say your response time has been great for support when I get stuck. So that has definitely been a difference as well, to not send an email into a black hole is really nice.
There you go. That's great. I mean, Nick, you were on support for
Much
a while. How's that feel? Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, Nick's like,
Screaming
that's
over-
me. I'm the one answering you at 9 p.m. on a weekend.
Well, we're all about, I tell people all the time, Nick laughs at me about this. It's such a corny line, but I tell people if they're not successful, if they can't make money, how can we expect to send over an invoice? How can we expect to be successful, right? And that's why we want to make sure that we're highlighting people like you, Kimberly, that are really moving in this industry and are working to make people successful. And we always want to connect those dots when possible between users and people in our ecosystem that want to help and want to connect with other people. We had that user group meeting earlier this year. And then we do PHDwin Week every year for this same setup. So that way people can see who's on. They can see the different vendors come on. So they know who's part of our ecosystem and who they can reach out to if they do need help, or they do need a second opinion, or they need data, or they need all the different services that you provide. And so thank you very much for becoming part of our ecosystem. And thank you very much for showing us your service. That looks very interesting. So anyone, just real quick, tell everyone again, if you wouldn't mind, how can they reach you? What's the best way to reach you?
Sure. My personal email address is kimberly@ariespetroleum.com. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. ARIES Petroleum Consulting also has a LinkedIn page. That's the best place to interact quickly. ARIES Petroleum's website is ariespetroleum.com, and the database is appbasindb.com. So lots of ways to connect there, and also through your portal that you guys have graciously put up for participating this week.
I have to give you credit, Kimberly. And so these younger guys, I'm not that much in LinkedIn. I'm not as good as you, right? So for the longest time, we haven't been as active, but you've really pushed me, therefore us, to get on it. Some of these younger guys are like, yeah, let's do the LinkedIn more. Let's have the media kits. Let's get on there and promote people and all that. So we really appreciate it. You've kind of lit a fire under us to be as involved in that side of it as possible. That's part of the reason why we're live streaming on LinkedIn right now, is because you've kind of inspired us to get into that new world some. And so, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I just want to give some extra notes for anyone watching this stream. So as Kimberly said, all the different people that are on the stream, all the different sponsors have a dedicated page where if you're interested in their service, you can click on their page, learn more about them, and then reach out to a form on their page, and we'll make sure that we connect you with them. So that way you can ask any questions and get more information about what the offer is and, how they can help you. Also, just to kind of set the stage for the rest of the day. So after this stream, we're going to have a quick start from a very special partner of PHDwin and TRC, QED Energy Consultants. They're going to be giving us some small videos called quick streams throughout the entire week. Courtney Stevens, the queen of QED, is going to start us off, and she's going to talk about leveraging scheduled forecasts in version 3. It's a big deal, right, Nick? That's one thing you've learned. It's scheduled forecasts. That's one thing we've really upgraded in the new system, right?
Oh yeah. Great feedback on that feature for sure.
So look forward to that session. And then after the quick start session, stay tuned. We're going to have our kickoff long session today. A long presentation is going to be from Platinum partner Ryder Scott. We really appreciate Ryder Scott Consultants for jumping on. Marilena has been on PHDwin Week last year. She comes back with a follow-up, an encore, if you will, for this year. And then after that, we have we're going to have a training course throughout the week. So 11 o'clock every single day. Whenever you tune into the stream, we're going to have a training course. That's a 4-part training course that if you're new to version 3, you're wanting to get into this new program. If you come from the background like Kimberly, where you're outside our ecosystem, but even if you're a version 2 person just wanting to switch over, make sure you catch those training streams, because that will allow you to get caught up to speed and allow you to get just some really good free content about how to most effectively use version 3. And then, be watching for the schedule every single morning. We're going to be emailing y'all for the schedule for this week. We've got a great panel coming up tomorrow that I'm really excited about. We've got some other key partners doing presentations I'm really excited about. Hopefully you're going to be watching a little bit of the stream. Kimberly, are you looking forward to watching some PHDwin?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a bunch of sessions that I've got marked like this is important for getting even to becoming a subject matter expert in PHDwin.
Well, there we go. That's what it's all about. Well, for now, we want to thank everyone for jumping on this. We really appreciate you being part of PHDwin Week and joining us for another year. We'll be talking to you. I'll be on tomorrow morning and later on today. Oh, wait, one last announcement. So in previous years, whenever we had the sessions, we had a Q&A after each session. This year, we're going to have a Q&A at the end of the day for all the people that are in the sessions to have a panel. And so it's a little bit of a pivot, a little bit different, see how that works out. So again, if you've registered for PHDwin Week, you're watching on our site, there's a form there where you can ask questions. Ask those questions as you're watching these streams, and we'll be sure to ask the participants, the speakers, those questions at the end whenever we have that session, that Q&A session. So keep an eye on the stream today. As I said, there's one stream, not many links. So keep an eye on us, and hopefully everyone will enjoy their PHDwin Week. Kimberly, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate you kicking off PHDwin Week with us, and we really appreciate you being a client at PHDwin and teaching both me and Nick, right? I'm not speaking for you on that one. Nick, we both learned a lot, right, from Kimberly?
Absolutely. Can't thank you enough. If you need anything, my extension has changed. I moved to the sales side of the office. Call me at 302 if you need anything at all, Kimberly. And that goes to everybody as well. Go ahead.
Reach out, 888-248-8062, extension 302. That's how you can get this shining face. So thank you all very much, everyone. We really appreciate it. And you'll be watching for the next stream. Bye, Kimberly. Have a good one.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on.